Peace, everyone. Hey there. This is Angela with Girlfriend's Guide to Homeschooling. Yay! It is that time. It is that time for another interview. So I'm so excited for this interview. We made it happen today. I have a special guest that is near and dear to my sweet little heart. This is my daughter, my eldest guinea pig. Yay! She's to be here today with us. She graduated through homeschool, and so I'm going to tell you all about her and her journey and everything like that. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about this platform. This is Girlfriend's Guide to Homeschooling with Angela Jordan Perry. This platform is to encourage those of the African diaspora community to the homeschool community that, hey, hashtag we homeschool too, and our kids are thriving and doing well and going through homeschooling and making their mark in life as adults, kids. We're making it happen. So this is to encourage you in your homeschooling journey and to encourage those who are considering homeschooling. Here you get encouragement, insight, resources, how-tos, what not to, and if we could start it all over again, what you would do there, okay? So this is what this platform is for. My purpose-driven life is to make a positive impact on thousands of homeschoolers worldwide, and I love it because I'm actually going worldwide. So we have our reach and now in England and Africa, and one of my interviews, I can't remember where she's from, but Croatia. So we're all over the place, and I'm just thrilled to see what Girlfriend's Guide to Homeschooling is doing. I've been homeschooling for 19 years, 8 children, 3 of whom we graduated out of homeschooling. I make my home in South Carolina, in the northwestern part of the state. And there in the state of South Carolina, I give families legal rights to homeschool. I give them legal status to homeschool. And then my reach is throughout the world, as I mentioned. So I will have all of that detailed stuff in the show notes. But today the focus is about Onyca. Yes. So Onyca.
Yes.
Are you ready to make it happen?
I'm so ready.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Onyca. This is what she says of herself. My name is Onyca Perry. I've been homeschooled my whole schooling, except for 2nd grade. People have asked me if I wish I was public school, to which I reply, expressing that the 1 year I spent away from home was more than enough to be perspective enough to appreciate being at home. A major source of interest that has now become an unofficial profession is natural and homeopathic remedies and medicines. I'm currently working on a book, which I saw yesterday. I'm so proud of her, and share whatever information I have with whomever may need it. Currently pregnant with my first grand love, her first baby. I'm planning to homeschool my kids and look back on my years in school as a great reference point for ideas moving forward. So girlfriends, I have shared just a little bit about Onyca, but Onyca, if there is more to tell us about yourself, please do. And then give us a little bird's eye view, not a little, just give us a bird's eye view of what your homeschooling journey was like for you those years that you were with me doing the thing.
I know I did say that a major point of interest is like homeopathic medicines and things like that, but I'm gonna tie this in both ways. With being homeschooled, I was able to study like so much outside of just like a typical curriculum idea that people would have of just English and math and science and, just the typical run of things. And being able to study, was it 1 year instead of American history, I studied like mythologies around the world and things like that. And just having the platform to be able to look into just whatever my interest may be at that moment and just really growing in learning about what there is to learn about really has helped me to be able to not only just study homeopathic remedies now, but also things having to do with psychology and sociology and understanding the world I live in and people I work with. And I volunteer at Main Street Marketplace here in China Grove, and I do a lot with working with people, whether it's in just the other volunteers or in the getting ahead classes that they have, or just different, outreach things, and being able to implement things that I have learned now.
Beautiful. And that makes my heart happy. So they're going to be, I have told Onyca, I've strictly instructed her to be truthful and honest. So all the good things are going to make me feel like, ah. And so a little bit, I might hear some stuff and be like, hmm. So, but we're going to we're going to keep it true and honest to her homeschool journey so that you can see from a perspective of a homeschool graduate what life looks like after, post homeschool. So Onyca, during your homeschooling years, can you think of anything or share anything that really made an impact upon you? Let's talk about positively first, to where you are now, that that you can say you can truly contribute to the fact that you were homeschooled.
Yeah, I can think of several things. The fact of us, we did co-ops and then classical conversations, and I don't know, I guess some other unofficial homeschool group type things. And the fact that I was exposed to, I don't know, the non-typical type people, either autistic kids or kids with handicaps, or just the sheer age range that I was exposed to, just on a regular basis, I feel like really has helped me be able to relate to people. Because there was never a box of what was normal, because we were just, if they were homeschooled and they were interested in what was going on, they were a part, and there was no problem with that. It wasn't like separated at all, not even in classes. And I know this was kind of post homeschooling, but when I taught that biology class at the co-op that you had, even in that class, I had a range of kids. And so just not being confined to an idea of what stereotypical is was very good.
And so which brings up another question of when you reminded me that you actually taught a biology class. How old were you when you were teaching that biology class? Do you recall?
I was 19 or 20, I think.
Okay, so you were already done homeschooling. So which, in that respect, my point to asking her that question is to let you see the perpetuation of us passing on education. As homeschool parents, we don't know all of the things, and we don't have a degree in all the things. We share our passions of what we can do. And look, she actually duplicated the very same thing. She loved biology. I think you took it how many times? 3?
I took it 3 times.
She took biology 3 times on an online course because she loved it, and she was proficient enough that then she could go on and teach a class of biology with labs and all of that stuff. And so there you go. You don't have to be any special degree holder to pass on knowledge and insight. So I'm very proud of her for that. Answer the continual question from the masses in regards to socialization. I can't tell you, every single time I mention that I homeschool, or anyone who wants to homeschool, their biggest concern is socialization. Do you feel like, Onyca, you missed out on the social aspects in your life? Like you were damaged, you were harmed, you were confined into your home, locked up in your attic? I mean, tell us what the socialization looked like for you in bits of parts of your homeschooling journey?
Right. Well, first of all, no, I don't feel like I missed out on socialization at all, because even in the periods when we were at home more, I guess that was like 12 to 14, 15-ish. I had the online co-op that I was doing. We did stars co-op for a while, and then there was classical conversations, and then besides that there was field trips that were going on. And if there wasn't that, there were just groups of us who were like, hey, there's a new movie that came out, you want to go see it? And so we went and saw the new movie. Or there would be some mom who set up like a bowling outing, or like a pizza movie social, or Miss Brenda did that a lot for the yearbook group. It wasn't just yearbook focus, it was also, hey, let's all get together and watch a movie and eat pizza, or there was always a lot that was going on. And I think, because I have heard from some people that they felt like they weren't really socialized, but I think the fact that homeschooling as a medium of teaching is expanding as much as it is, there are a lot more people to connect with that have either similar interests or a similar schedule enough to be able to just be like, hey, I homeschool, you homeschool, let's get together and see what we have in common and get to know each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And while you're right, I think across the board, not all families are maybe not doing a great job on the socialization, but it's not because it can't happen. It's just because they're not making it happen.
Right. It's because I've met a lot of moms who are either new to homeschooling, or they've taken their kids out of public school and they're like, I have no idea, it's just me and the kids at home. And I was like, well, you could look up Facebook groups, or, there are people out there who are trying to find people always.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the basis of human nature. People need people, and homeschoolers do too.
Yeah, so true, so true. So take us to maybe a worst moment of homeschooling, or something that you would say you didn't particularly appreciate about homeschooling or didn't like about homeschooling. If there was anything you can say, you wish, or you can just say that was a negative aspect that you found during your homeschooling journey, share those aspects that you would want parents to watch out for and think about and consider.
The biggest thing that comes to mind is it wasn't even actually anything like at home having to do with schoolwork or anything like that, but more so at co-ops and classical conversations, is that if kids aren't structured to be inclusive, then they will still form cliques. And that's, I feel like, still happens. I mean, just society in general, if you have the mindset of making a group, you end up excluding people. And to be careful of that exclusion. Not to then be the helicopter parent that makes sure you include everyone, Johnny, because that then can cause issues. But teaching the balance of, yeah, these are my friends, but I also don't have a problem reaching out to, that one kid that sits alone all the time, because maybe that one kid doesn't know how to extend themselves in that way to make friends, or maybe that one kid has anxiety so bad they've talked themselves out of going over and saying hi 1,500 times. Like, you never know. So I would say, if anything, that would be the negative experience, just being on the outside of people having cliques. But that happens in public schools too. It just has to do with teaching from a young age not to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think, because our situation is unique, and maybe it's a unique situation in that we are in South Carolina, and we were always pretty much a minority in everything that we did. Do you think it had that, are you speaking like, what do I want to ask? The clique type of feel that we experienced was more so because we were a minority in our area, or just the fact of human nature and people just form their cliques? Do you understand what I'm asking you?
I think it was some of both, because I definitely can bring to mind times where I felt like, oh, it's all of them sitting together and it's me. Um, so, I mean, there definitely is some of that, because in society as a whole, there's a lot of that being dealt with and being flushed out, or, you know, whatever, being addressed, period. Um, but I don't know, because there is also some who were, I felt like it could have been economic thing instead of like a racial thing,
Okay.
or I don't know, a church group thing, because a whole bunch of them went to the same church or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
just hard.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of parts to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So one of the cool things that you did in your homeschooling, and I want you to speak to this in regards to when you were in high school years, and your last 2 years were dual enrollment years. You remember that at North Greenville, and your experience with that. I'm just curious to know, in your experience, did you start at 16? I think you did your 16-year and your 17-year-old year, the last two. Do you feel like that was a plus in your life, a benefit to you academically, or did I push you out too soon into, this atmosphere, college atmosphere? And do you feel prepared for this entry into college at such a young age? Speak to that if you can bring some memory.
Yeah. It's actually something I hadn't thought about in a while. But I think for me personally, I don't think it was too much too young, because I don't know, not just with homeschooling, but also with like church and stuff. I'd been a part of big groups, or hanging out with the older kids, or, classical conversations, I will say, I feel like prepared me a lot for college life, because that was a lot of work and subjects and being on task and deadlines and all of that kind of stuff, that I feel like if I hadn't had that introduction, dual enrollment would have been a little bit harder. Um, but I really am grateful for the fact that I did dual enroll, because that gave me an idea of, okay, this is what a classroom setting feels like. This is what, because I mean, I had been in classes before, but even in a co-op, it's very casual, or like really relaxed. At least in some of the classes I've been in. But then, like with classical conversations, that was way more structured. So then to go from a structured relaxed to university level structured was, I was able to do that transition. I feel a little bit better than if I hadn't have had the previous acclimation sort of situation. Um, and I can think of, I I was able to make some good friends. I have a lot of good memories from dual enrolling. Um, mm,
And
I
college
still think,
orchestra, you were in the
oh my
orchestra.
gosh, yes, oh my gosh, I love being in the orchestra, and I still think fondly on professors there, and just, yeah, it was a lot of good. I'm very grateful I did it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And she played the violin, for those of you don't know. My older three studied violin for a number of years. And then Onyca, after homeschool, or I don't know, I think it was after homeschool, you started your own violin studio and you had a number of students, and she ended up nannying for the college professor. What'd you say?
I said they actually had performances too.
Yeah, she had recitals and performances, and I was just so pleased. Just a great, great, great end result, if you will, after her schooling and what she stepped into her own self. And she's still stepping into her own self. She's still making her own path and her own journey and her own mark, apart from, from me, who was such a big part of her life, as a parent. So one of the things Onyca mentioned is that she plans to homeschool her own children. And so Onyca, this is beautiful because I kind of almost got emotional. Whoa, woo, hold on. I wasn't expecting that. It's like a passing on the baton. I don't know why I'm about to get emotional here. Something I've been doing for 19 years, and now this is my first child who is going to pass on this homeschool into her own family, as she start her own family. So if you didn't catch it, she is expecting, and due date is any time after the next 2 weeks, anytime she could have baby. So Onyca, what is it about homeschooling and that idea of homeschooling that would cause you to want to perpetuate this and with your own family?
It's actually a cool thing, because my partner and I, we were just talking about this because he was asking me, why would you want to homeschool instead of sending kids to public school? I was like, well, first of all, it's more personal. I feel like having that connection with my kids is very important. And just besides the fact that I feel like there's a lot going on in schools that is just, I feel like would need to be reformed before I would feel comfortable sending my kid off to school. I feel like having the flexibility to be able to, like, I know we did this a lot. We would travel to Jacksonville and look up what museums or monuments or whatever's there, and shaping your schooling around where you're going instead of having to shape your life around, okay, you have this scheduled week and a half off from school, so let's try to make a vacation. But like really instilling the love of learning wherever you're going, and teaching that any opportunity to learn can be grasped, and no matter where it is. Because I know I did that even after I graduated. When I went to Norway, there was a lot. I really dug into the culture there, the language, just different things that I happened to observe, and like would research because I was curious. And but my curiosity was fostered from a very young age. Mm-hmm. And it was never anything like, oh, you're not at that level yet, you can't learn. Because Dad was teaching me multiplication tables when I was in second grade. I didn't really get to it until like fourth or fifth grade. But I knew it because I questioned and my questions were answered. And I feel like that's huge for kids, especially because they ask so many questions all the time. And I don't want my kid to be shut up because the teacher doesn't have the capacity to answer 50 million questions from 20 kids, because they all have questions and they all want to learn. And I want to be able to foster that love of learning.
Beautiful. That's a great point. Never thought about that, because the curiosity of kids are there with tons of questions. And when you're at home with your kids, and you know this, moms, we get questions all day, all the time. And so that is stunted when they do have to go off to public school and not have that freedom of curiosity. So that's a beautiful point. And And I know that you're going to do a great and amazing, awesome job at homeschooling my grand love and my grand loves and all that will come in the future. So I'm really excited about that. Do you feel like now as an adult that you have found any holes in your homeschooling that has hindered you? Like, dang, I didn't learn that when I was in homeschool or something. Do you feel like there are any missing pieces that now you can glean back and say, dang, my mom missed me on those things? Share honestly about those things.
Um, I mean, really, the only time I feel like that comes up is when I'm around people who have been to public school and they talk about, like, I don't know, what was it, like stats, math class, or, you know, just different classes that they took that I I don't know what that label for that class means. But that's like the only thing. If something comes up, I typically can give a voice to it if I want to, or if I need to. Or, I mean, a lot of times I feel like I know more than, you know, a typical student because I was free to study more than just what the typical education box would be. And I don't know, do I practice drawing the whole world and labeling all the countries and capitals and topography every day? No. But if something comes up that talks about current events in Lagos, I know where that is. Like, I'm able to relate because it's information that I have stored. If someone brings up something having to do with Marx and his philosophies, I have a general enough knowledge to be able to follow along with what they're talking about. And I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah. The one thing I can say that I wish I would do, and I'm doing better this time, is in regards to finance and taxes and um, uh, stock and, you know,
Yeah.
portfolios, income portfolios, all those kind of things. I didn't focus on that too much with you all, but I think, I'm not sure it's because we were not business owners in that time. And so now since we're business owners and all those things are in front of us all the time, I give that more to my children now, your younger siblings, than I did prior. So I know that's a big hole that I left for you and your
siblings. Though I don't feel like I was completely lacking because I can remember, I don't remember the name of the curriculum, but it was a Dave Ramsey thing that you had us doing at one point that talked about taxes and finances. Okay. And then I want to say it was Classical Conversations, I actually had to have a stock portfolio and keep
That's up right. Yes, you did.
Year. Do I remember everything that I learned? Not completely, but it was introduction enough that if I were going to pursue that information more, I would have a general enough understanding of what I'm looking at to be able to make some heads or tails to be able to continue.
Gotcha. Good, good, good. I forgot all about that. Thank you. Yay. So I did a pretty good job. So Onyca, tell us, what is the best piece of advice that you can give to students now who are homeschooling, and on hindsight, if there's any advice you can give to the homeschooling parents who are just starting out? Share any thoughts that come to your mind that you can share with the community.
To students, don't procrastinate. It never works. If you have something on your plate, tackle it, because not only will it do you the benefit of not having to stress about it later, but you'll actually have more time to really ingest what it is you're learning, and you won't feel like, okay, I did this just to pass the test or just to complete the assignment, and you're actually retaining the information that is in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And also don't be afraid to speak up about a curriculum or um, the way something's being set up. If you're having trouble really wrapping your head around how it works, then speak up about it. Because I know for me, we did, what was it, a Beckham and what was the other one? Saxon and Life of Fred and something else, trying to figure out the right blend to. Math is not the easiest subject for me, so it took some figuring out. And that's not a problem because that's how life works. Just in general, you were presented with something and then you have to figure out the best way to get from A to B. And it's okay to take the time to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And for parents, don't be afraid to experiment, because you never know what may work for Susie and Jane won't work for, I don't know, other kids you have, or what worked for one parent and her kids might not necessarily work for you, even on the standpoint of teaching it. So there's a lot out there, and there's a lot that you can just compile yourself to be able to teach. You don't have to stick to a curriculum. You don't have to stick to anything. That's the beauty of homeschooling. You can make it what you want it to be, and it can look like whatever you want it to look like. So definitely don't take shame for not doing it how everyone thinks it should look like. It's your journey, and you can be comfortable in that.
Absolutely. Well said. That is my daughter, everyone. She said it very, very, very beautiful. Okay. Well, Onyca, here we are. We're on the last question, the $1 million question. Are you ready, girl?
I'm ready.
Okay. This is going to be a little unique, but if we had to start all over again to day one of your homeschooling journey when you were 4 years old, and that might be too far back, so we can add it up, go up to a higher age if we need to.
I remember 4 years old and hooked on phonics. That's
okay. All right, but if you could start all over again this homeschooling journey, what would be something that you would definitely wish that was changed or different, or something that you wish would have been implemented in your journey?
Something I actually never really thought about until just now would be a more expansive, like religions study. Because that was something that, I mean, granted, we were very churched and were around a lot of very churched people, and it wasn't something that was very widely accepted. Even the philosophy class that I took, there were some people that was like, what are you doing? What is that? Mm-hmm. Because it broke so outside of the typical theology and philosophy that we'd all grown up with. But I feel like that would be really the only thing that I would wish was there, or because in some aspects it kind of was when we went into like world history, and it started all the way back in like Mesopotamian era and stuff like that. It touched on that, but it wasn't comparative. And I feel like that would have been very cool. But it's something I look into now, so it's not information I feel like I'm lacking, but just having a background in that I feel like would have been nice.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So implementing religious studies, although do you remember when I had you read the Quran?
I do. I forgot about that.
We did a little religious study through Tapestry of Grace.
Yeah.
Remember that? And you had, I won't say had to read the Quran, and I don't remember if you read all of the Quran, but that was definitely outside of something where our faith was at the time.
Yeah. I faintly remember that. I remember being very confused.
Yeah. And I think that's when I said, okay, we'll stop for right now. So, and we stopped because I hadn't had any knowledge of the Quran, and so I couldn't speak to it. And I remember another mom asked me, Angela, do you think, it was almost like, are you afraid that she may gravitate to the teachings and ways of the Quran or anything like that? And I said, I need her to know any more things than just the Christian Bible that we were ascribed to at that time. And but then it was over your head, and you were like, Mom, I don't know what's what. And I was like, you know what? Me either, so let's just stop.
Yeah. But I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. That was there.
Yeah, so a little bit, not as much. And then the one thing I want to talk to you about, and I think we'll save this for a podcast conversation, and this is, I want to talk to you about how to help parents foster free thinking and autonomy, teaching kids how to have autonomy over themselves. I don't think I did that very well, I know, and I didn't trust the journey enough that giving you all free autonomy. I don't think I was the best at that, and giving you freedom to be a free thinker. You kind of just bust the freaking boxes like,
I'm gonna figure this out one way or another.
There you are. I'm gonna think, and you took control over autonomy over yourself, which has taught me now how to ensure that my kids have autonomy over themselves and become free thinkers. So I think that's something I definitely want to jump into in a podcast conversation. So we have to make sure we schedule that. So, well, Onyca, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. Oh my gosh, bless my heart. I'm sure there's so many things we could talk about. If you all have questions that you want to know, just please ask them. Things that you want to glean from Onyca. She's been there, done that. Now she's 23, and she finished, really at 16 and went on to do dual enrollment her last 2 years. So if you have questions, things you want to pick her brain, please post those questions and she will answer them. And if there's any questions that you would like to ask of me, then, please let me know. So Onyca, Girlfriend's Guide to Homeschooling, I am so grateful to you and appreciate you of giving your time and hanging in here. We finally got this thing figured out. We record. Oh my goodness, you all don't even know. We started this on Thursday, trying to get this done. But Girlfriend's Guide to Homeschooling is so grateful to you and thankful to you for giving up your time, your insights, your knowledge and background, and this time to share with the diasporic community, the African diasporic community. So thank you so much. You have my dearest, you have my heart, my love, and I'm so grateful to you for being my guinea pig, my first graduate. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. So, girlfriend, just remember that you are the average sum of the people you hang around with. In this past half hour, you've been hanging out with me and my daughter. Yay! So listen, keep up the momentum and connect with other positive resources. Just like Onyca said, there is a community of homeschoolers out there looking to get connected. So stay connected to positive resources that's going to encourage you on your journey, and those that you can pour into their lives and encourage them in their journey. Okay, so make it happen. All right, and remember that to teach a child is to touch a life. And as we homeschool, we not only touch a life, we shape the future through our efforts of homeschooling. So keep making a positive impact day after day, year after year, because before you know it, you have your 23-year-old who have so much wisdom and insights to give back and then perpetuate that in the next generation. So thank you, girlfriends. Again, this is Angela Jordan Perry. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and on Facebook. Check out my other resource of Educating Our Own, again, to encourage you in your journey, and the Homeschool Startup. And if you are in South Carolina, you're looking for Option 3 Accountability Association, come on and let's talk. I'm at United Community of Homeschoolers Unlimited on YouTube and on Facebook, okay? All right, Onyca, bye. I love you so much. Bye, guys. Hold on, Onyca, before you hang up, okay?
Mm-hmm.